Lonzo Ball makes an emphatic statement in regard to his plan to return to basketball. We're going to talk about him doubling down yet again about his return. We're also going to dive into the mailbag, all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize. You guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And we are a little over a month away from training camps opening in the NBA. Actually, for the teams that play overseas during the preseason, they actually open up training camps in less than 30 days. But we have just about 30 days for every other team in the NBA to start training camp. And so the FIBA basketball play so far has been fun to watch. And, I know the whole thing's just shaked out on, the NBA is not the world champions. You shouldn't say world champions that came out. And, NBA players responding to that, which is always funny to see that happen when, like, the athletes, kind of don't agree with stuff. But, I'm not even going to make that a topic today. I think most of our audience is highly intelligent. And you guys know, I always say you guys are one of the most passionate and smart fandoms in all of basketball, and that's why I'm glad for the the community that we've built here. So we're not even going to get into that, but for those that have been watching the FIBA tournament so far, not just the USA, I know some people do only watch USA, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like just the brand of basketball over there, and it may just be because it's been a minute, and I am just happy to see high-level basketball yet again. It's just been a fun tournament so far. And, Nikola Vucevic has been over there cooking. He had another big game, not as big as his first game, but listen, undefeated. They're 2-0 so far. So, it's good to see Nikola Vucevic. And like I talked about before, it's just important. I don't want to overrate the importance, but, Nikola Vucevic having that opportunity and ability to kind of, jumpstart ahead of training camp and really be in that shape and in that mindset going right into training camp, depending on how far his team goes in this FIBA tournament. But, it's just good to see basketball again. And I think that, I love it when we do have the international, Olympic, FIBA play, all that type of thing. And, we're going to be having EuroLeague coverage as well now here on ESPN this upcoming season. So, we're going to have more basketball to talk about than ever. And it's just easily accessible basketball. Not everyone's been able to go and watch EuroLeague basketball, even though it's been available online for a while. But, now having the ESPN presentation for it, I'm sure it's going to bring a whole new level of audience and viewership to it. And we're actually going to be covering EuroLeague consistently over on NBA Central as well. And I didn't even plan that as like a plug to it, but hey, go over there, follow NBA Central, which is the general NBA show that I do. Bobby C. Dub, Steve-O, we all over there. Big Kev pops in every once in a while as well. And we're going to be breaking down and talking about EuroLeague basketball. I think we're going to have one episode a week focused just on EuroLeague basketball. So kind of the biggest performances, biggest plays, things like that, players to watch out for that could make, the leap from EuroLeague to NBA, just for those kind of have that hook for fans of, they need that hook of, okay, but what about the NBA and any type of basketball that they watch? So, to get back on this FIBA Olympic style basketball, it's just a different brand. And so, to have the big performances from players that you just aren't going to see big performances from in the NBA. And so it's just funny, even, hearing like Brandon Ingram trying to figure out the international type basketball style. It's different, right? And I think that so often we just look at basketball and say it's basketball, but it's a lot different. The spacing's different because the court's a little bit smaller, the three-point line's a little bit shorter. It's almost a mid-range shot for a lot of NBA players, so you're able to see that. I really look at Paolo Banchero as well as a player that I think is gonna, much like how international play, Carmelo was just amazing. He was able to play so many different positions because of the style and change. I look at Paolo's being a player that's going to be able to do that as well, kind of step into that mantle. But it's just fun. It's just fun times, and I hope you guys are watching it, and hopefully you're enjoying it as well. If you do have, for the mailbag, any questions about international basketball, things like that, please do not hesitate to send that out. I want to hear your thoughts on that too. Now, I may pick up those thoughts and talk about them over on NBA Central just because that's a general basketball channel, but overall, just really fun basketball and a really fun place to be. But okay, let's get off international play and all that type of thing. If you guys can't tell, I love basketball. I live, breathe, and eat basketball. I love basketball. I love all sports, really. I'm just 9 times out of 10, if my TV's on, it's on either some true crime, sports of any kind, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, a little bit of hockey thrown in there, soccer, softball, women's softball. I love watching women's softball on top of everything else. So like, I love watching sports and anime. That's really kind of the things that I watch. It is what it is, man. And Marvel TV shows, Ashoka, this is great. But okay, we're sidetracking. That's live stream talk. But let's get into the Bulls topics for today. And so Lonzo Ball had an interview with Darnell Mayberry on The Athletic, and he says this: I'm going to play again. For me, I know what I've got to do to get back. I'm just on the path of doing what I've got to do every day, taking it step by step. I don't look too far ahead. I know in my near future that I will be back on the court for sure. Now, you guys know I've gone over like the details of the surgery, how that it's been monitored over years and things like that. And Lonzo Ball has a difficult road ahead of him if he's going to make the return. He would be the first NBA player to make a return from this injury if he's going to play at a high level and actually make it a career. He's young, so that definitely plays into his part. I also think he got a new version of the surgery from what I read, and so that may also help in that advancement. And so while it's still bleak, right? I do want to be clear on that. It is still bleak that Lonzo Ball is going to make a high-level return to sports. While some athletes do return to sports after cartilage replacement surgery, not very many turn into high-level, professional level of sports. And so Lonzo has a tough road ahead of him. And that's why they've already ruled him out for the entirety of the 2023-24 season, because it is such a long road. And so, even, I talked about before the YouTube channel with the sports medicine doctor who kind of talked about the muscles that Lonzo needs to strengthen just from the video of him standing up and down in the seat and stuff, and just looking at how like he's placing weight on certain parts of his body. It's going to be a long road for recovery for Lonzo. But the fact of the matter is that if Lonzo does it, it's going to be such an inspiring story. And so, listen, Lonzo is somebody who loves basketball. And like I've said so many times before, most of his life, right, from a young age, has been planning to get to play the game of basketball at the NBA level. Imagine dedicating so much of your youth, so much of just everything to one singular goal, and then having that taken away from you because of injury, right? Not because he wasn't good enough, because he showed he was good enough to play at the NBA level and had still so much room for growth, right? So much areas of just progression in his game that you would expect him to have. Had this last season and a half been him focusing on, improving certain aspects of his game. And just, you could look at the way that he's improved his three-point shot from where he came into the NBA to just show how much he's dedicated to improving his craft. And to have that taken away, now that needs to be focused on just getting back to that craft, it's sad, man. And so I hope that Lonzo is able to make a return. Like me and Pat I've talked about a little bit over here. I don't even care what level of return that is at this point. If Lonzo Ball is able to make a return and just be a defensive guy off the bench, or just be a three-point shooter, or whatever it is, or God forbid, get back to being that starting level point guard that he showed and flashed here in Chicago, having, like he said, as the perfect system around him, right? Like just the perfect backcourt. Him and Zach LaVine at this point, right? They would be going into their third season together as a backcourt. The growth and everything from them playing together could have been like just amazing, right? And so it's another Chicago woulda, coulda, shoulda, or what if with a point guard that we have so many of those. When you look at Jay Williams, Derrick Rose, Lonzo Ball, we have so many questions around and that's just in our recent history, right? That's the last 20 years of Chicago Bulls point guards. Now, I didn't mention every point guard in there, right? Because even Chris Dunn, like, and like, just what ifs if this things worked out differently. So, it sucks, and I hope that Lonzo Ball, does get in more quotes from this interview. He says this: "You have to realize it's just part of life in regards to his recovery. Life is not easy, and if you want the most out of it, you have to push yourself forward and push your best foot forward. So for me, even when I get knocked down, you've got to get back up every time if you want to keep going. You can always quit, take the easy way out, pout and go to the side. But for me, it's trying to get to a place where I want to get to. You've just got to get back up, go dust off, and keep going." Listen, Lonzo Ball is clearly motivated. He is motivated to get back to the NBA court, whether it be through wanting to prove people wrong, whether it be for just his own desire, whether it be just for the love of the game. Whatever it is, he's finding that motivation to push through what I'm sure is a difficult recovery process to be able to get back to the basketball court. And so if he does, whatever it is, whatever happens, you gotta just acknowledge and have respect for the young man that is putting his best foot forward. And he even talked about, like, he could have retired. And that's the easy way. He could absolutely retire right now and then just, if he does, ride off quietly, do your rehab quietly, and if you're able to make a comeback, make a comeback. But like Lonzo Ball, I think too, the thing is that with Lonzo coming out and getting ahead of this right now, because Lonzo disappeared for a while, and we saw it, like it looked like he was stressed. It looked like you had concerns over like his motivation, things like that, because I'm sure it sucked. I have that taken away from you. But like now that he's out in front of it, he's doing interviews, he's posting videos, he's challenging Stephen A. Smith. Like there's a level of just confidence in that you can feel. It's palpable. And so hopefully that comes through, and like we'll see. Hopefully this time next year, right? In just a year, we could be talking about, instead of, hey, is Lonzo going to come back? We could be talking about a Lonzo Ball that is making his way to be at Bulls training camp this time next year. And if that does happen, you got to give your hats off and love to Lonzo Ball in a case like that, because listen, there have been tons of players that have had this injury, not all in the NBA, but just in professional sports, and a lot of them haven't been able to make their way back. So praise up to Lonzo Ball. Hopefully he keeps that progression going, and we'll see what that ends up meaning in the long run for Zoe. But hey, I'm hopeful. We'll see what it has. I have my doubts around how tough it would be for him to theoretically come back. I have my doubts because of looking at the medicals and things like that. But listen, shut me up, shut Stephen A. Smith up, silence every doubter that you have, make a comeback, and then we'll see what that's going to end up being. So we'll see. But with that being said, like back on the Chicago Bulls, like getting into this, like I said, we got a little over a month from training camp. And one of the things that the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion, need to do in training camp, the first thing that they need to do is establish their identity. Now we talked about that so far, but this Bulls team with training camp needs to be, you now have your point guard, right? You have Javon Carter. Yes, it's going to be a probably open battle between him and Kobe White, and I don't even care who comes out of it. But the mindset and the spirit of competition and the edge that this team needs to develop in training camp this season, we need to do it. You got Zach LaVine fully healthy. Everybody is fully healthy outside of Lonzo Ball. We understand that, but everybody is fully healthy and ready to go. And so when it comes to like a Patrick Williams, when it comes to a Dalen Terry, when it comes to anybody on this court, Zach, DeMar, Vooch, every single player on this team needs to understand their role and how they need to impact the game outside of just scoring, but just how they need to fit. One of the most important with this Chicago Bulls team, this version of the team, is finding out how the pieces fit together and how to get the best combination of those pieces in each lineup to get the most out of it, right? I know a lot of Bulls fans are down on this team. I know a lot of the national media is down on this team, but that ain't got nothing to do with once the actual basketball is being played for this team. And head coach Billy Donovan, like I said before, if anybody, my sights are also on him. How do you get the best out of this roster? How do you utilize these players better than what you did? I've talked about it. Zach LaVine, for example, one of the best catch-and-shoot players in the NBA. We almost ran no catch-and-shoot opportunities for him, right? Yes, we have players with limitations, but that's up to the head coach to put them in the proper areas to get the most out of them. We need to use Vooch more. He's here for now another 3 years, theoretically. Yes, you can move off that deal, but how are you going to use him and utilize him better? Andre Drummond could have left. He loves the city of Chicago and how the franchise supported him through his mental health. Now, how do you support that, right? And I'm not one of those people. I don't try to put everything on Billy Donovan because everything is not on head coach Billy Donovan. But I will tell you this, it is up to Billy Donovan to find a way to get to improve this team in the margins, to take advantage of now what you have, the Torrey Craigs, the Javon Carter, the growth from Kobe White. How do you want to use Patrick Williams, right? How do you keep him motivated? Things like that. That is what coaching is about. And Billy Donovan is an important part of the piece because he is the head coach of this NBA team, and he's left much to be desired from. And that's not to say the players haven't either. Zach LaVine, stop dribbling off your damn foot. DeMar DeRozan, find a better way to be more impactful off the ball, right? Because I think that's the next layer of the Chicago Bulls team if we're going to start unlocking certain players. I get why Billy Donovan has relied so heavily on DeMar DeRozan to be so ball dominant. I understand it, right? That's his strength, that's his skill. But if this team is going to want to actually improve rather than just continue to tread water, you got to find a way to be impactful off ball as well. And that's for everybody. And how much we've seen players kind of not move and operate without the ball is unacceptable. Billy Donovan going into training camp, the moment that we're running plays and he sees players standing around watching rather than moving without the ball, you need to stop practice and call them the fuck out. That's what you need to do. I remember all the way back to like Tom Thibodeau's first practice with the Chicago Bulls. First practice. You guys can go back and fact check me on this one. It came out that Tom Thibodeau stopped practice completely when Luol Deng took a long two instead of taking a three-pointer. Because it is just that much more of an effective shot had you just taken one step back and shot the ball from three rather than a long two. And that season, because he started that in training camp, we saw that season Luol Deng be a more impactful three-point shooter and stretch the floor out a little bit more. Now, Luol Deng had his injury concerns later on, right? But that's the type of thing that you want from a coach. It's not all on the coach because the players are the ones that are paid millions. They need to be out there. They need to execute, those type of things. But when you're trying to set a culture, and that is my biggest issue at times with Billy Donovan, is that I don't think Billy Donovan is a culture-setting coach. But you got to try to do it. He's here. He's probably going to be here for a handful of years as well. We'll see with how he is with the Reinsdorfs, but we'll see, man. Hopefully that's what we'll start seeing, and I can't wait to start covering training camp. But all right, before we go, we got one voicemail that I want to play. This one's from JT.
Hey, what's good, Haize? This is JT. So check this out. Something I was just thinking about. I think that low key, as much as like Mark Eversley and Arthur, like AK, they want to keep this like core together of Devon, Zach, Vooch, and Pat, right? And obviously they just re-signed like the Vooch, and they re-signed the young players of Io and Kobe, right? I'm gonna be honest, and I don't know if everybody feel this way, but I think that low key, like a part of the front office know that this big three is not really gonna go anywhere, and I think that what they gonna do is I think that they just gonna like ride it out. And I think that deep down they know, like, okay, obviously we got Zach as like a piece that could potentially get traded. But I think that they know, like, at the end of the day, our main building blocks going forward going to be P. Will, it's going to be Io, and it's going to be potentially Kobe, right? And you got Justin Phillips and other pieces like Dalen, right? But I think that deep down, like, they know, like, this is not going to get us nowhere. So I think eventually they're going to end up, like, trading or, you know, like, letting DeMar walk. Now, the other thing I want to run by you was me personally, as far as re-signing DeMar, I love DeMar, but I just don't think that he going to be that piece to, like, get us over the top. And you could say, like, maybe that's probably not on our team already, but then you could say, like, well, maybe that, you know, eventually, like, Pat could grow into that and Zach could grow into that. I don't know. But I just think that I don't think that the Bulls should re-sign DeMar because I feel like he's getting up there in age. Like, of course, his game going to age gracefully, but that's not going to put you over the top. Like, that's not like KD and Stephen Curry aging gracefully. Like, they way high caliber players as far as superstars. So I think that I don't think they should re-sign DeMar, but if they do, it gotta be like a small contract, like at least 2 years. I'm not signing him for more than 3. And I mean, me personally, like, he getting up there. I still feel like you getting up there in age, like, it's either you come off the bench or we just gonna have to just trade you. Because even though like he could score like 20-some a game, like 24 a game, like plus a game, it's not gonna get us nowhere. I would rather us invest in our future as opposed to just keep on beating a dead horse and keeping the same thing together, knowing like we just gonna cap out like at like a 50 potentially.
All right, great points on AK building around the core. Here's what I'll say is that you say that DeMar isn't a piece to get you. We don't have a piece to get you over there. We're not even at a place where we can talk about getting over the top. We can't even see the top right now, right? You can't see it. So like DeMar DeRozan is a culture setter, and I think more importantly than anything, that's why you hear Mark Eversley and even the players, they talk about how DeMar has helped their growth, right? And that is important when you have those young players. But you also have to have those young pieces show that they are ready and in a place to take over the mantle if needed. And that is, like I've been saying for a couple of months now, right? Or a couple of weeks, not months. But like that is one of the biggest things that scare me about the Chicago Bulls team. We have a lot of tons of question marks still in our young players, and they haven't really started to show like that they can be big pieces, right? That they can be like Patrick Williams, even right now. I know some Bulls fans don't think, and they may hate to hear this, but Patrick Williams, even right now, as a player that can hit the three-point consistently and defend at a high level, can fit on almost any NBA team. He's going to have a 10 to 12-year career just based off that, right? But, of course, relative health, but you want to see them take the next steps, right? Rebound more. Go in those in-between things a little bit more, right? Dalen Terry, we don't even know what we have in Dalen Terry yet. He's so raw, right? Same thing with Julian Phillips. I have confidence in Julian Phillips. I like Phillips as a prospect, but we haven't seen it yet. Again, he just got drafted. We haven't even had an opportunity to see it yet, right? But like, even going back to like my last statements on Billy Donovan, that is another thing with Billy Donovan. Like, is he even the coach to develop those guys? But that's why you brought in the head of player development. You have to get the most out of those guys. And so at the end of the day, like I said, AK is the type of GM, from what we've seen in Denver, a little bit here in Chicago, is that he is going to let things go their natural direction. And so while DeMar isn't a piece to get you over the top, right, the Bulls right now aren't even a place to reach for the top. We're not. And so, yes, he's going to keep building around this core. He's going to keep, making things go naturally and hope that things are going to develop. And I think we will see a change in coach before we see a change in the core, unless, like, again, a player gets injured and is majorly or something like that, or a player decides to walk, which DeMar could theoretically do, right? We don't even know if it's even in the Bulls' hands per se, because, hey, the Bulls can offer him, yes, the most money. But if DeMar does want that ring and does want that title, which, great point, I can't remember who pointed out in the comments yesterday, was like, well, if DeMar was going to ring chase, he would have took such and such from Golden State Warriors, which is an amazing point, and one that I did not think about in the question we got from Kelder yesterday, as far as if DeMar will ring chase. But again, at that point, that was 3 years ago by the time he reaches free agency, and your motivations can change drastically in 1 year, much less 3. So we still got to see where it's going to go, but that was a great point as well. So I think that AK is invested in this core, and he's going to continue to invest in this core until he has a player that stands out, until there's a player, a young player, whether it comes via the draft or comes here via free agency, that absolutely hugely ups your ceiling of your team just by the way that they operate on the court. We're going to see the same core for a while. I know it's not something that a lot of Bulls fans want to hear, but it's still the most likely scenario. Thank you for leaving that voicemail, JT. Thank you for everyone for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for our mailbag episodes, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.